Spritzer. I'm the Executive Director at Judi's Place for Kids. Thank you for taking the time to watch this brief video about the multidisciplinary team. If you are watching this video, then you're a member of our multidisciplinary team working together to address cases of child abuse in Pike, Floyd, Johnson, Martin, or Magoffin counties. Thank you, because this is important work, but it may be a small part of the job that you do. Why do we work together as a multidisciplinary team, or an MDT, on child abuse cases? Child sexual abuse in particular is estimated to impact 1 in every 10 children. And yet this is a startling statistic and does not even take into account the cases of physical abuse or neglect. And so the need is huge. But these cases are really difficult for many reasons. For one, no government agency, nonprofit entity, or provider or discipline can meet the needs that are inherent in a child abuse case, and particularly a child sexual abuse case. There are many different disciplines that have something to offer. And it's a question of what kind of a case is a child abuse case. Is it a medical case? Is it a case impacting mental health? Is it a case of a family issue? Is it a case of a criminal justice issue? And of course the answer is yes, it's all those and more. And so while we can quote that 1 in 10 children experience child sexual abuse, the reality is that it's hard to grasp in our mind that someone could harm a child in such an egregious way. And so while we know that 1 in 10 in our head, sometimes when we're confronted with an allegation of child sexual abuse, it's really hard to wrap our minds around. And it's even harder to investigate and to prosecute. One of those reasons is that many times these cases happen in private with no additional witnesses other than the alleged perpetrator and the alleged victim. And of course, these alleged victims themselves, their very nature as children, makes them vulnerable to the abuse and also at times difficult witnesses. It's also hard for us to believe when a perpetrator looks like an ordinary person, but in our mind we just think that somebody has to be such a horrible monster to harm a child. And of course, it is a horrible crime, but the perpetrators themselves can look very ordinary. And I think it's important to mention the origin of this team approach. There was a prosecutor in Alabama who, after prosecuting a case of child sexual abuse successfully, was confronted by the child's grandmother. This grandmother said that the investigation process and the prosecution process had caused more trauma and harm to the child than the abuse itself. That prosecutor realized that there must be some better way to take care of all of these needs of this child without causing them the further trauma of having to tell their story over and over to different providers who very often were not speaking with each other, we're not coordinating services, and the child and the family were having to go to many different agencies to get the things that they needed. And so today, in that spirit, we definitely don't want to be causing more harm to the child than good through the investigation and prosecution process. In our area, we maintain written protocols in each of the areas that we serve that are signed by agency heads and document what services are provided by the Child Advocacy Center and what are the roles of the investigation and prosecution agencies. These written protocols are signed by the agency heads, but they are also available for all MDT members to review. They're very helpful documents. They look lengthy, but they do cover what are the responsibilities of each discipline and reference all the appropriate statutes. I encourage you to reference that protocol and look at your own discipline and its own responsibilities, as well as the responsibilities of all of the team members. In this training, we're going to focus on the services available at Judi's Place for Kids and how you can access those services to make a better case and to serve the children who come to your attention even better. You are a vital part of the multidisciplinary team. When MDT members work together, we can use the best resources from all of our agencies to make sure that children's needs are met in a very difficult time. There are 3 main purposes of the multidisciplinary team. The first is to review all the cases of alleged sexual abuse and human trafficking that present in each of the counties in our region. The other cases that are accepted for review and services with upon request of the investigators would be severe child physical abuse cases, witness to violence, and witness to homicide. The second purpose is to assess the service delivery to children experiencing this type of abuse in our area, and to work amongst each other to figure out better ways to meet any service gaps that are identified. The third purpose is to facilitate efficient and appropriate disposition of cases through the criminal justice system. This written protocol is subject to input from all of the agencies involved and is updated at least every 3 years. The number one goal of the function of the MDT is the safety of children in these cases. Part of that is the immediate safety of the child victim and minimizing further trauma or system re-victimization, to protect the privacy rights of the child and the child's family, to minimize the number of victim interviews and to ensure interagency collaboration, and to facilitate access to medical and behavioral and mental health intervention to promote successful healing. Besides the safety of the child, which is of paramount importance, there is the accountability of the whole system designed to protect children. And so in that accountability, we want to increase the quality of child victim investigations, prosecution, and victim services, and eliminate the duplication of efforts. We want to increase the successful prosecution and offender accountability through the MDT collaboration. We want to ensure that each case of child sexual abuse, child trafficking, or severe physical abuse is appropriately reviewed. We want to hold all the professionals accountable with each other that are involved to the highest standard of professional conduct. We want to identify and improve system and local resource deficiencies. We want to promote child victim and family voice. We want to collect and maintain accurate information regarding the investigation and prosecution of child victim cases. We want to implement trauma-informed care practices and principles, and increase and maintain active participation and consistent attendance of each agency at MDT case review meetings. And so I appreciate each of your role in this MDT process. It is truly together that we can make a difference for abused children. Thank you.
So investigators gain minimal facts whenever they go out and talk to the children. They gain whatever they absolutely need to make sure that the child is safe at the point that the investigator knows that they're going to bring the child to Judi's Place for Kids. Then they can say that you're going to go talk to a person, or you're going to go talk to my friend, whichever one that you prefer to use, and I would like for you to share your story or your life event with this lady that you're going to go talk to in a few days. So that will cut down on the child having to tell you their story and then tell us their story and then everybody else that they've already disclosed to, and it will cut down on it being so traumatic for the child. If you need to refer a case to us and you are located from the Allen Red Light back towards Prestonsburg, or you're in Johnson, Martin, and McGoffin, you can send it to our Prestonsburg advocate, Heather Harrison, through her email, or you can fax it to her. Or if you are the Allen Red Light back this way in Floyd County and all of Pike County, you can send it to Delphia Branham, or you can fax it to her or myself as well. So that's how you can refer to us. And then who can refer to us? You can be any branch of the law enforcement. So it can be our Kentucky State Police, our Sheriff's Office, our Pikeville City Police. And then if you're a DPP worker, Department of Protection and Permanency worker, you can also refer to us. And if you are either Commonwealth or County Attorney, you can also refer your cases to us. Or if you're a federal agency, Homeland Security, or the FBI. A forensic interview is a environment we are in the Pikeville location right now, is what you are seeing. I'm actually sitting in the chair that the child is interviewed in, and typically I'm the one that would interview in the Pikeville location. I'd sit across from myself currently. We would interview the child in a unbiased, very neutral environment, and we just give the child a safe environment. We offer them Play-Doh, markers, crayons, coloring pencils, and paper. They can either draw, write, or color anything that they want to. Sometimes it helps them draw what has happened to them, and then the interviewer can have them explain what they drew, or anytime that they write something, they can explain what they wrote, because it's easier sometimes for them to write what happened versus have them say it out with words first. So we give them that option as well. Play-Doh helps them keep their hands busy, and it just helps them have something to do instead of just looking at somebody directly in the face telling one of the worst things that's ever happened to them. What does an interview look like from the moment the child sits down in the room? The interviewer will walk in and sit down and introduce themselves. Hi, my name is, for instance, Brandy Harvey. What's yours? And then the kid will say their name. Well, will you tell me how to spell it? So then the interviewer will write down how the child spells their name. And then the interviewer will say, so tell me some things you like about yourself, or tell me some things you like to do for fun. And the child will go into great detail about what they like to do for fun, or things that they like. The interviewer will ask them, tell me everything you like about that topic. So if it's basketball, tell me everything you like about basketball. And then the interviewer will move on and tell them things about the room. Like, there's a camera right behind my head, which right now it's right in front of me. So there's a camera right behind my head. There's a microphone and a light above us. So the interviewer will let them know, depending on their age, or if they just notice that the camera's in the room and who's watching today. And then the difference between a truth and a lie, and we talk about things that are true and things that really happened during this interview. Can you do that for me today? We'll go over the other rules in the room, and then we'll go into family in your house, what you did this morning from the time you woke up to the time you got here, and it's just to establish that they are able to do a narrative event. So whenever we do get to full disclosure, whenever I can relate back to, so you told me earlier in the interview that from the time you woke up until now, when I get to disclosure, I can say, so remember when I asked you to go through when you woke up until now, we're going to do that with this event in your life. And then move on. If it's been more than one time, that's how we're going to establish how many times. I won't ever ask how many times. I'll ask if it happened one time or more than one time. Sometimes we have children, or we even have their caregivers that have language barriers or hearing barriers, whatever the case may be. We have a system. It is a Stratus machine, and it's an iPad that we can connect over to several different languages. Several different speakers will come up whenever we need them, and we can use that during the interview, or we can use it for paperwork permission. And the interviewer or the advocate or whoever's providing the service, even if you're the investigator, we can still let you guys use it whenever you're trying to communicate with the child or their caregiver. We've had to use it a couple of times so far, and it has worked tremendously well. And we've had great comments and great feedback on it. It allows us to connect on a different level, and it allows us to use their first language instead of trying to use their second language. And that's what we're all about, is taking that holistic approach and trying to really connect with the children and their caregivers during this time that they need us to understand them in the best possible way. What to expect the day of the interview? Whenever you make the referral, Dale or Heather, which are your advocates in whichever location that you have your interview in, they will ask law enforcement if a social worker has assisted you, or they will ask the social worker if law enforcement assisted you. So we need to know that so we can make sure that we work to the best ability of the child, because we would like all parties to be here that are working in the case, law enforcement and DPP. So whenever we get the kid in the interview, that whenever the interviewer is asking all the questions and get to the disclosure, that when the interviewer takes the break, they are able to go back and ask questions from both and law enforcement and Department of Protection and Permanency to know how to better help your investigation further in the criminal aspect, and then to come back in and get the full interview for the child, so we don't have to bring the child back in for another interview. So we just do one interview with that child and make sure that it's completely successful. to the best of our abilities, that we can work together as a team. So what it looks like is the child comes in and with their caregiver, and the advocate will do paperwork with the caregiver. And whenever the investigator gets here, after you come to the center, you'll come back to me in the team room and you'll tell me everything about the case that you know, so I can better take care and provide for the child during that interview. So if the child has a language barrier, if they're developmentally delayed or anything like that, if they're on the spectrum of autism, that better helps me provide the services for that child. And to know what to do for the interview room, if I need to take Play-Doh out, if I need to take some of the Play-Doh cutters out or their markers out, I can do that to better serve for that child so they can be attentive during the entire interview to the best of all of our abilities. So we'll talk about the case extensively. You'll tell me everything that you know. If the child had an interview before me, what they've already talked about in that interview, and then we'll go forward. Whenever the advocate completes their paperwork, they'll come back to the team room and tell us what new information they learned in the intake paperwork, and they'll share it with us as a team. And then you'll tell me any questions that you absolutely have to have that day, and then I'll go into the room and I'll sit down, and me and the kid will talk about everything that we possibly can talk about to the best of our ability. And I'll try to exhaust every avenue, and you guys will be taking notes and be writing things down that I may have missed or may need to go back and clarify for you. And after full disclosure is done, I'll look at the kid and I'll say, so I gotta go back and talk to whoever you are back there. I'll try to say your names. I'll just say I have to go back and talk to one of my coworkers. So I'll go back there to you and I'll ask, what else do you need? What do I need to clarify on? What did I forget? So I'll go back there. You'll tell me what I need to clarify on, and then I'll come back in and I'll sit down and I'll clarify it with the kid. We'll go through whatever needs to go through. If the kid says something else and you need something else, you can slide a note underneath the door in the interview room, or you can knock on the door and talk to me in the hallway for a second. That is perfectly fine. So we'll do that, and as soon as the interview is over, me and the kid will wrap it up by saying, all right, do you want to put your Play-Doh back in the can? And who brought you today? They'll tell me who brought them, and I'll say thank you so much for coming and talking to me today, and for sharing whatever they liked at the beginning of the interview, and then for sharing with me about your family and who's been part of your life. And then I'll take them back to their family. I'll come back to you guys back there in the back in the team room, and I'll say, hey guys, what else do you guys need? Do you all need to go talk to the family or anything? And if you guys don't need to talk to the family, then I'll go out there and I'll tell the family, hi, my name is Brandy. This is what, I'm the person that talked to your kid back there. I wanted you to put a face with somebody that just talked to your kid. But if you don't have anything to update the caregivers with, just saying, hey, I gotta run that by my supervisor or my sergeant or anything like that, that is just something so the caregivers can be at peace, so they can also see your faces for a second. How to get a DVD. So if you have got the case, if the case was reassigned to you, or if the case was just assigned to you, either because we didn't have law enforcement on it before, or maybe law enforcement has changed, or you're a DPP worker and the investigators have changed, or it has moved to ongoing instead of investigation. So whatever the cause is, if you need to come and watch the DVD because you are part of the case now, just call Heather, Dale, or me, or whoever the interviewer is that did the interview, and let us know that you need to watch it. We'll work with your schedule, work with our schedule, and set you up a place that you can come and watch these DVDs. We are here to better help and better serve these children, so we really want you to feel like you can come and watch them. So you can come watch the DVDs whenever it's convenient for you, at your earliest convenience. If the prosecution needs the DVDs, then you just write a letter or you let us know, and we'll fill out our paper that says you have requested it, and you'll have to sign for the DVD if you have to take the DVD out of our building. That is only for prosecution. And if it is prosecution out of our state, or if you are law enforcement out of our state, then your prosecution still has to ask for our DVD. We do not let the DVDs leave this building unless there is a letter from prosecution or the court has summons or subpoenaed subpoenas the DVDs to have them in court for any reason to better further their criminal case.
Hi, I'm Delphia Branham. I'm the Family and Child Advocate here at Judis Place in Pikeville. I have a counterpart in the Floyd office, Heather Harrison. Advocates' duties are many. We are usually the first point of entry that our investigators see and our clients. I take the referrals, I get them on the computer, we set up the interviews, and we go from there. We have lots of duties that's included with that. And when we get the people in, they actually come in the room we're in now, and we do paperwork with them. I always ask them if they know why they're here, and then speak to them about getting their identifying information, make sure it's correct, name, birthday, social. Most people are very cooperative, some don't want to give that, and we don't force that. We just put a no name, that we can't do that. We talk with the family, explain to them why they are here. We explain to them the services we do offer. We offer interviews, advocacy, that's me. I'll go back in just a second and tell you what the advocacy does. We talk about therapy, medical appointments, and we explain to them that everything's in confidence, that there's only two things we don't hold in confidence. That's if they say they're going to hurt themselves or they tell us that somebody else hurt them, then we would have to report that. Back to my job, I do the paperwork, and then I start talking to them about the things that's involved in their case. At that time, I give them a folder that I have here. It has different information in it, and it also has a list of the professionals involved in their case. So that way they will have it. It has my card in it. We try to tailor that to the needs of the family, whether it be if it's about any age, the online services. If it's neglect, we'll include stuff on neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. We do that. Most of the families are receptive. We will ask them questions during assessment, see if they're in need of our services. If they want us to help them talk to their landlord about extending the rent where they're separated from a spouse, to sign up for housing, food stamps. We make a lot of referrals for child support for families, because there are a lot of families that it's ordered but they're not receiving. We make any type of referral they need. We make sure they have the card and they know what we can do. Now, after I do the paperwork with the family, of course they'll do the interviews, but my job doesn't stop there. If it's a case that's going to go to court, I'll have continual contact with the family. And if they can't get up with their social worker or their police officer, a lot of times they will call me, and I will shoot an email or try to call them and let them know that this particular person is trying to get a hold of them. I will go to court with them. I can actually go up in the courtroom with the parent or the child, and if the child has to be interviewed and go in the back, I can go in the judge's chambers with the child. I do nothing of telling them what to say, but I'll tell them how to be calm. I'll prepare them for what they need to know when they get there. Most of them are afraid to look at the alleged offender, so I tell them that I explain how they don't have to and the ways they can to cope with it. I've had children in there that their little legs are just shaking, and I'll just calmly reach over and try to pat their leg. And if they start crying or get real upset, sometimes I'll look at the judge and ask if we can have a timeout. And we just talk to them about getting back in sync with what's going on and how to try to best answer those questions. We have families that, I do have one particular family that I'm meeting with monthly right now, just because it's a pending circuit court case. But most families I will call by phone or talk with them in depth about that. If they need a referral for therapy, we do have an on-site therapist. I can make that referral. We can make referrals to therapies outside of here for parenting classes, anger management. Most of the time the social workers are aware of those needs and have taken care of them, but I reintegrate and go over with what they need. We have a lot of duties as an advocate, and that's the protection and to maintain for the children and the family. I'm not just a child advocate, I'm a family and child advocate. I do a lot of things with the community to help raise awareness. I'll give talks at schools. I'll attend science fairs, health fairs, sometimes back to school bashes. I and Heather and I are both on different committees to help promote stuff, on family resource committees, just different committees throughout. Sometimes I attend the meetings we do for like child abuse prevention. We try to set up tables at these events and give out the information to the people as they would need it. But most importantly, it's the child and the family that we're concerned about, and that we do try to see that their needs are met. Some cases we never have to see again. It was either unsubstantiated or they completely don't want us around. But the majority of our cases, they will remember, and they'll take this little book, and my card's in here. Something comes up, I've had them call me so much as from 5 years ago and say, I've got this problem, how can we help? We try to send them to where they need to help. And when they have questions, we try to send them where it's most beneficial to get them, either to the law enforcement, the social worker, the county attorney, the Commonwealth attorney, the schools. We've had a lot of children that say they've been bullied. When we go through the process of telling them what to do about it, we can actually attend IEP meetings at the schools at the parents' request. There's a lot of things we can do to help with the families, and if we can help investigators, they just have to let us know what we need to do. And that's about sums it up. If you saw a list of our duties, they're about this long. Some of them will bore you investigators, but we do try to maintain a good relationship, and we try to work our interviews around the investigators and the family's needs. Somebody works night shift, they need a 1 o'clock appointment. Some investigators got court, they need to do it before 10. We try to work around what we can and be very accommodating to our investigators. And a lot of times I do make referrals for medicals, and our medical person's very knowledgeable. She can talk to them if they've got questions. I'll refer them to her. I don't refer people to the interviewer when they have questions. I attempt to answer most of those because we don't want it to seem that our interviewer is being biased in a case. So I will listen to them and tell them. They'll ask if they can watch a DVD, and I'll have to tell them no and explain why. But we work hard for our families, and we try to do the best we can. We also have a survey. There's a computer actually in the room that we use, and we let them do a survey. I will leave the room, and I tell them it's for a check and balance of our services. And some people want to do it, some don't. Majority don't care. We have some grandparents that say, I don't use a computer. We can help. We got it on paper. We let them do it on paper, and I can enter it in the computer. And we've actually had some interns that we've let sit down with families and actually help complete that survey. And it tries to give us a check and balance of what we do.
My name's Angela Gilly. I am the medical clinic manager here at Judis Place for Kids, and I will explain what happens when a child is recommended for a medical exam. There are two types of exams that can be done when these situations arise. The first is an acute exam, and the other is a non-acute exam. The acute exam is something that we normally refer out to the emergency rooms because those type of exams have injuries, bleeding, something that needs to be taken care of in that sort of sense, and also a collection of forensic evidence. The non-acute exams are what we cover here at the office, and we do have 3 pediatricians that work with us. We also have 2 nurses and some assistants who help during the exams. The exams are not traumatic, they're non-invasive, they are not intended to hurt the child in any way. What we do during the exams is we collect a physical history. We collect any information that might lead to needing to test for STIs, any type of infections, anything of that nature. And those exams are performed normally here in the office, and they take maybe 20 to 30 minutes total. The exams don't take a long time, and afterwards the children say that they weren't scary, they weren't traumatic, and their fears were just kind of exaggerated by the whole situation, and that the exam didn't bother them at all. We do have a special piece of equipment for our photo documentation, and it's called the Cortex Flow camera system, and that basically is a large computer with a camera attached, and that can help in several ways. We have documentation for legal purposes if that needs to be seen. We have photo documentation that can be enlarged to look at certain areas, zoomed in, zoomed out, whatever the doctor needs, and those pictures can be sent directly from the piece of equipment through encrypted email to other specialists if needed. So they can look at those pictures and give us feedback while the child is here without us having to send the child to UK or U of L, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, things of that nature. Those pictures are never shared with anyone other than specialists that need it, and the investigators can ask questions about those pictures, but they are kept on a secure camera system, secure computer system, and there's no identifying information with those pictures. They do have a code that we give so we can go back and look and match it up with a patient, but it's never any identifying information. And the computer system is encrypted, password protected, and only a few people have access to that system. As far as the medical reports, those are sent to the investigators if they request it. That's the written medical report. And the pictures are only released under court order, and there are specific parameters set around those pictures so no one else could have access to them. And I do want to talk about the reasons why we do the medical exams. And here at Judi's Place, we have adapted the Arkansas State Police Center for Children at Risk 6 Ps, and we like to tell the investigators that if any of the 6 Ps are involved, that the child should have a medical exam. And I will let you know what the 6 Ps are, and you will see that it basically covers everybody that we see here so that we can get a better understanding of what's going on with the child, address any needs or concerns, if there's any type of infections, injuries, anything like that that needs to be addressed. And also the children feel comfortable hearing a medical professional look at them and say, your body is alright, it's normal, there's nothing wrong, nobody will be able to tell this in the future or anything of that nature. So the 6 Ps are penile contact, painful contact, if there was any type of penetration attempted, any physical symptoms, perpetrator exposed children if they're in the home or exposed like a coach or anything of that nature, and also a predisposition of the child to deny. That is included because some children may deny the allegations or the disclosure because they're still living with the family member, the perpetrator, or if they're younger and they just really don't understand the questioning. So the 6 Ps really encompass everything that we can deal with here at the Children's Advocacy Center. And finally, I want to mention that our doctors have special training in order to do this. It's not like your family doctor or an ER doctor even. Our doctors have either child abuse pediatric sub-board eligibility or certification. That's a big long title, but that's basically after they've gone to med school, they have gone and gotten a child abuse pediatric specialty added on. There's a lot involved in that, is the certification as far as their classes and the trainings that they go to. If the physician does not have that certification, they do have to have a minimum of 16 hours didactic training just on child abuse and how to do the exams. We also can have SANE nurses perform the exams, but they will have to go through a 40-hour didactic training as well, and then a practicum internship with a OBGYN or a physician who does a lot of internal exams, so that they are comfortable and familiar with all the structures, anatomy, and everything that they will be dealing with during these exams. And also with pretty much any specialty, they have to have an 8-hour minimum continuing education every 2 years.
My name is Shayna Sloan. I work for Mountain Comprehensive Care Center's Healing Program under the Hope Initiative grant. We have a linkage agreement with Judis Place to provide trauma and mental health services to the children that they serve. We are trained in various evidence-based treatment modalities to be able to provide treatment. One of these is trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And this is a structured short-term treatment for kids aged 3 to 18. And we work with both the child and the caregiver, the non-offending caregiver, to provide psychoeducation, coping skills, emotional regulation, how to handle trauma reminders, and eventually they're able to tell their story through completing a trauma narrative. We are also trained in child-parent psychotherapy, which is for younger children ages 0 through 5. And this focuses on the relationship between the caregiver and the young child. And it helps to repair those relationships and establish positive attachments and establishing a sense of safety, and to help the child as well as the caregiver to address the meaning of the trauma and to help them both work through it and to heal. So those are some of the modalities that we are trained in through this program. So when children come into Judis Place, afterwards they are screened for different trauma symptoms to see if they require mental health treatment. And some of these trauma symptoms may look like nightmares, flashbacks, attachment issues, anxiety. They might have trouble sleeping, bowel issues, and especially younger kids, we see a lot of behavior issues and defiance. And sometimes these may initially look like just behavior issues or maybe symptoms of other disorders until we know about the trauma. And these symptoms can be different depending on the child, the support that they have at home, as well as their specific trauma. Some children have more complex trauma throughout their life, and we see much more severe symptoms, while others may have much less but still require treatment. However, just because a child has been through a trauma doesn't mean that they will require treatment. And some, even though they may need treatment, might not always be ready. So that is one reason why we do the screenings and the assessments, to check for these things to make sure it's necessary and that they are ready for it, so we don't just make those trauma symptoms worse. So then we wait until they are ready. So we can also make appropriate referrals if they would rather be seen somewhere else, or if the parent needs individual treatment that we're not able to provide. The treatment is typically structured and brief, and while trauma can have great effects on children, healing is also possible, and we are able to see great results from treatment, and that healing is possible. I also work as part of the multidisciplinary team to provide updates on cases within the bounds of confidentiality, mostly progress, and if they're coming to sessions, just very basic information. and also able to provide consultation on trauma and mental health if anyone has any questions or needs help with referrals.